Your competitors are already doing your research for you, testing topics and formats and channels that you can learn from, not to copy, but to do better, to differentiate. And that's what competitor analysis is all about. And that's the topic of this week's episode. You're listening to the Content 10x podcast, where it's all about content repurposing. I'm Amy Woods, and I'm here to help you maximize your content and find smart ways to get your message in front of more of the right people, whilst also saving time. Let's get started. Welcome to this episode of the Content 10x podcast. I'm your host, Amy Woods, and this is part 3 of our series all about content strategy. If you missed the first one, then go check it out. That was all about what a content strategy is and the fundamentals of a content strategy. And then in part 2, we looked at aligning your content strategy with your business goals. And today, this episode is going to be all about competitor analysis. So knowing who your competitors are in the marketplace to help you differentiate and understand those opportunities and gaps that you can explore. And in future episodes of this short mini-series, we'll be looking at messaging and positioning. We'll also look at different channels and content formats. Of course, we'll be looking at content repurposing and distribution, and also measurement and KPIs as well. So that's all to come. But as I said today, we're going to dig into competitor analysis. Before I jump to the topic though, just to mention that we have our fantastic B2B content operations benchmark ready for you to take. It's a free 4-minute or up to 4-minute short self-assessment that you can do. So maybe hit pause and take it right away. Just head to content10x.com/benchmark. There's a series of quickfire questions about content strategy and planning, tech and ops, and also your team capability and culture. And then from that, you will get a personalized report. This isn't a generic report, so it's personalized to you and your responses, and it has lots of recommendations, tips, and also some really useful resources that you could go and grab. So as I said, it's free. It shouldn't take any more than 4 minutes. And it's at content10x.com/benchmark. And of course, we'll put the link in the show notes as well, so you can go and click that right away. Okay, back to the topic of today, which, as I said, it's all about competitor analysis. So what is competitor analysis? I find often there are 2 ways that people think about this. Sometimes they'll say, yes, we do lots of competitor analysis, but what they actually mean is that they occasionally kind of skim what's going on in the marketplace on LinkedIn, and that's just about it. And then another view is I really don't want to look at what competitors are doing. Either it might cause FOMO, or there might be a worry that by looking you might end up copying them and things like that, and you don't want to go down that route. But competitor analysis is really, really important. It's business 101 to know what's going on in your marketplace. And through knowing your competitors and knowing what they're doing, this is not about copying, it's about differentiation. It's about spotting gaps and spotting opportunities, and then making the most of that in order to define your content strategy and your positioning and the types of content that you create that will help you stand out in often a very crowded marketplace. So the next question, what types of competitors are there? And there are different types of competitors for sure. So you often have direct competitors, so they really are offering a very similar product or service to you, and you would consider them to be a very direct competitor. And then there are competitors who maybe compete on only parts of what you offer. So, for example, at Content 10x, we're a B2B content agency, and something that we do amongst many is B2B podcasting support. And so a specific B2B podcast agency would be a competitor of ours for that specific service offering, but they don't compete necessarily on other things that we do. But we'd have an eye on that type of competitor for certain services that we have. There's also emerging disruptors as well. So they may not necessarily be a competitor right now, but you can see they're up and coming, and you can guess the direction you're going in, and you know that they're likely to become a competitor, and they are very much disrupting the space that you are in. Then there are attention competitors. So they're capturing the attention of your audience and your potential customers. So they may not be a direct competitor, but there's something that they are putting out there into the marketplace that is still a competitor of the attention of your audience. So, for example, if you provide a SaaS product, there may be consultants and agencies and specialists, etc., that solve a similar problem to your SaaS product. So, this isn't a direct competitor on the product, but they can solve a problem in a different way and are getting the attention of your audience by doing so. And then there will be competitors by category, by product, or by service, as I mentioned in my example earlier. At Content 10x, we have different competitors for different services that we offer, as well as broad B2B content agencies that are quite similar to ours that would be more of a direct competitor. So they're the different types of competitors that you may be looking at. But when we say competitor analysis, what do we actually mean? What are you analysing? So in content strategy in particular, when you're looking at competitors, there's quite a few things that you'll want to look at. Now, firstly, the topics. What are they talking about? What are they discussing? You'll be looking at their messaging as well and their positioning. Also, the channels that they're turning up on, what core channels are working for them, and also the formats as well. What types of content formats, as well as topics, are your competitors creating content about? And when you're looking at those channels that they are present on, you might be looking at things like their content cadence. How is that working for them? And also engagement rates as well. That can give you a good idea as to how their content is performing. And you can get a good idea of the formats that work and the topics that work as well through looking at the engagement on certain platforms. Other things that you'll be looking at, particularly in B2B content marketing, would be SEO performance as well. So when you've got a good idea of who your competitors are, where are they ranking when it comes to SEO? And also, of course, there's traditional search and also generative AI search as well. So looking at how your competitors perform in that area as well is super important. And you'll be taking a look as well at the types of lead gen content that they create. So the organic content, the paid content, and what do they create when it comes to lead generation, and trying to get an idea of how that may be working out for them. From competitor analysis, what may you then be able to identify? So you may be able to spot topics that are not being talked about. You may be able to spot audience groups that seem underserved. You'll spot new ways that you can stand out, hopefully, and be able to do a bit of an assessment of what seems to be working and what isn't working across platforms, messaging, cadence, and also the gaps as well. And from spotting gaps, you should be able to hopefully spot some opportunities as well. So that's the kinds of things that you can get from doing a thorough competitor analysis. So then it comes to the question of how. How are you doing all of this competitor analysis? And there are lots of different ways. Of course, there's traditional desktop research, so sitting down and looking on the search engines and using Gen AI, of course, these days to do lots of research, desktop research to find out as much as you can. And within that, looking at the social platforms, as I mentioned, so when you're looking at these different channels like LinkedIn, etc. So there's research that you can do. There's tools that can help as well. So when I talked about looking at where your competitors rank, of course, there are plenty of SEO tools that can help you do that. And also, there are tools that help with audience analysis that can also help with competitor analysis too, like Spark Toro. Of course, you can read and subscribe to the newsletters of your competitors too to see what's going on in their world and how they're communicating through their newsletters, and subscribe to their content as well. Again, this isn't about copying, it's just about understanding what's going on in your marketplace to help you differentiate. You can also get lots of information from speaking to your sales team as well, because they will be talking to your customers, and often competitors will come up. Who are they mentioning? In what way are they mentioning them? This can be really useful for your overall competitor analysis. Now, once you are doing this and you know what a competitor analysis is and the tools and the methods that can help you, I guess you really then need to decide on what you should be focusing on. And this can really vary depending on the industry that you are in. So it may be that you're in a really fast moving industry like SaaS, for example, a particular type of SaaS, and it's really fast moving. Competitors change a lot. There are emerging disruptors all the time. And it's not going to be really the best use of your time to constantly be looking at every competitor. So here you're probably going to want to keep a close eye on, say, 4 to 5 of your direct competitors, but also obviously occasionally be looking at what else is going on with other competitors in the marketplace and review where you might want to swap out who those 4 to 5 are that you are looking on, depending on what's going on within your industry. But it may be that you're in a super niche industry and you really do only have a small handful of direct competitors, and that's about it. So, of course, that keeps it easier for you to do competitor analysis on them and keep monitoring what's going on in their world. So, it really does depend on the industry you move in, how many competitors you have, and really what the competitor landscape is like. But it really isn't about stressing out about knowing everything that's going on with the whole competitor landscape. Really do just hone in on a few that you think will give you lots of useful intel and information to help you do a better job with the content that you create. So then the big question will be, how do you turn this insight that you are gaining from your competitor analysis into action? What do you actually do with this? Well, we recommend that you look at this from 3 key areas. Number one would be your content gap. So, hopefully, from this, you will spot topics that seem to be a gap within the industry and what your competitors are talking about. So, spot those gaps and work out how you can be the one to fill that and create that content for your audience. Number two would be your differentiation opportunity. So, if you're identifying that everybody is talking about similar things, then what could you be talking about that will really differentiate you? Perhaps a totally new angle on hot topics in the industry, but something that's going to be a really key differentiator for you and spotting that opportunity. And the third would be spotting format and channel opportunities. So, is there a particular channel that you find through your competitor analysis that is really underserved, or a particular type of content, like a format that just doesn't seem to be explored? And that could be your opportunity. So, those channels and those formats, and where can you again close a gap and address somewhere that could be completely new and differentiate you? So these three things together should feed into your content pillars. And we're going to come on to this in a future episode in terms of working out those topics and content pillars. Your competitor analysis should play a key role in helping you decide those content pillars. It's going to help you really differentiate yourself in the marketplace. Who would typically own competitor analysis? That's another really key question that often we get asked when we talk about content strategy. And when we talk about who owns it, it's really the debate over, is it marketing or is it sales? Now, in my view, the competitor analysis should be owned by marketing, but it should be directly fed into through sales as well. And both teams should be really closely sharing intelligence and what they're learning through their competitor analysis. I mentioned this earlier, but the sales teams are going to be talking with customers and potential customers all day long. And in those conversations, competitors will come up. They will mention who else they're considering and those kind of conversations. So it's really important to be getting that information from sales, and then, of course, providing sales information too in terms of what you're learning and differentiation and how they can adjust the conversation that they have when competitors come up to really make that differentiation messaging clear. So, owned by marketing, but directly fed into through sales and constantly seen as a two-way conversation between sales and marketing. That would be the best approach for ongoing competitor analysis and intelligence. A good question at this point would be to look at whether you could run the risk of making some false assumptions with your competitor analysis. So you do need to be really aware of this. Just because a competitor is doing something doesn't necessarily mean that it's working for them. And just because something works for them doesn't necessarily mean that it will work for you as well. So you do need to bear that in mind. And I've said this quite a few times, but this is not about copying. It's about differentiation. And also, it's about making sure that, for example, if you spot certain topics that are being talked about and they seem particularly popular, that may be really saturated. So then find something different, again, differentiation, something different that you can do to add to the mix. So remember, this is all about looking for opportunities and gaps. It's about understanding the competitor landscape and how you can differentiate and making sure that your messaging is going to resonate with your audience and help you to really stand out. Now, if you've been following along in this series about strategy on the podcast, I've been providing a little bit of analogy when it comes to building a house. So we talked about the strategy and the plans and the campaigns in relation to building a house. You can also kind of build on that analogy here in terms of competitor analysis. So, when you are looking to build a house in, say, a neighborhood, you may be looking at the other houses and you're spotting things that are great and not so great. But you're not going to go ahead and copy, are you? You wouldn't go ahead and say, I want my house to be exactly like that. But you can take inspiration. You can spot the things that look fantastic. You can spot the things that didn't go quite right. And you can build the perfect house based on the learnings from looking at lots of different neighbours and lots of different houses to make it right for you and for you specifically. Because what's right for somebody else, the perfect house for someone else, isn't necessarily the perfect house for you. But there's little learnings along the way to help you create the perfect house for you. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed that topic all about competitor analysis. It's something that I really, really love to talk about because I think it is such a crucial component of a content strategy. So I've mentioned this already, but coming up on the podcast in this series that we are running on content strategy, we're going to be looking a bit more at messaging and positioning. We're also going to be looking at repurposing, of course, and distribution. We'll be looking at measuring and KPIs as well. So there's still lots to come. And if you haven't checked out the previous few episodes, do go check them out as well. The link will be in the show notes to everything related to this strategy series. And finally, I've mentioned it earlier, but I'll say it again. Please do go and check out our B2B content operations benchmark. It's a fast, quick, simple self-assessment, completely free, but it'll really help you with a lot of what I've been discussing so far on this series. Particularly, there is a section on competitor analysis. So go to content10x.com/benchmark. It will take you no more than 4 minutes to complete, and you'll get a personalized report with lots of really great links to resources and tips and actions, etc., to help you with your content strategy and also your team capability and culture and tech and operations as well. So again, content10x.com/benchmark, and we'll put the link in the show notes as well. Also, just to mention that if you would like help with your content at all, whether it is your content strategy, content creation, or content repurposing, we can help you here at Content 10x. We're a fully end-to-end B2B content agency. So if you would like to chat, we'd absolutely love to speak with you. Just head to content10x.com/inquiry. So thanks for joining me in this episode. All that's left to say is I'll catch you in the next one.